What is going on, my peeps? Man, Versatile is back with another video. Back here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, this is my review. How do I feel about the game? My thoughts. I played both the PS4 and PS5 version. The PS4 version was actually still pretty good. It really kept me intrigued. Like the minute you jump in the game, you still get the instant dope visuals, the contrasty colors, the vibrancy of the pinks and the purples and the yellows. You get a very stunning look still. Of course, you get some level of frame drops on the PS4. I mean, I'm playing on PS4 Pro, but it still didn't help as much because the game is graphics intense. It feels like, because when you look at Peter Quill, you look at the Guardian, they look very well established, very well designed. And so playing on PS4 was dope. It was really cool, and I didn't think I was actually gonna get a PS5 yet, so that's why I went and opted to get it on PS4 because it wasn't a big deal until to my surprise, your boy was able to get his hands on a PS5. Yes. So how was it playing on a PS5? What are some of the differences with the PS5? Well, before we get into that, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, so that way you never miss my videos or my live streams. That way we can sit back, chillax, and see what's cracking. Now, let's get back into the video. The haptics, the vibrational feedback in the controllers is what's a big difference, and the audio cues with the PS5 controller is substantially different from the PS4. And I'm talking like the sound sounds so much more enriched on the PS5 controller. Whenever you get audio coming back to you from like Gamora or Mantis, yes, spoiler alert, Mantis is in the game. Whenever the audio is shot through the mic, it just sounds like it's literally coming from a comm system on a ship. They did such a good job there creating that audio bit. And the haptics, the feedback, the triggers. I said in my PlayStation 5 first impressions video that one of the things that I was trying to get used to was the adaptive triggers. R2, right? L2 not so much, but R2 for sure. The reason why it was hard to get used to was because, which side note, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart takes advantage of the L2 trigger. I just realized that now. But, you know, you press halfway to do some shooting or whatever, or if you want to intensify it, you fully click. You can feel the tension in the trigger. You gotta substantially pull it back, like I guess you would any other piece of artillery. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things that I was trying to get used to was trying to find his charge shot situation. Like, you know, you're supposed to double tap twice and then you can charge up a blast before you blast it. Well, on PS5, because of the adaptive triggers, it kind of runs into a slight problem there with Peter Quill's blasters. So I toned down in settings the adaptive triggers from strong, which is standard, to like medium to calm things down. And wow, was it a lot easier to figure out that sweet spot for his trigger shot, for his charge shot. And outside of that, I mean, the controller feels good, the rumble feels good. When you're on different platforms, you feel the way they move on it is slightly different. Even within the cutscenes, you get differences in vibration when things are happening, and the intensity of moments builds between different moments. You get subtle and you get hard and you get really hard. And you're like, man, this controller is really kicking in right now. And the nice part about that is the controller's battery life is phenomenal. So I was able to make it through much of my gameplay with Guardians virtually with no issues. Now, thankfully, I have 3 controllers, so if I can just swap them out if I have to. I love using my Cosmic Red controller, which is basically oddly like similar color to my hoodie here. But in terms of controller play, not a problem. That was one of the main differences that I noticed between the PS5 and PS4. The other obvious difference, of course, is visuals and performance. Oh my goodness, is 60 frames per second of performance mode amazing. I believe that ray tracing mode adds ray tracing to performance mode, so you still get 60 frames per second. You get ray tracing, which is basically how light is interpreted in the world. The lights are ray traced, so you get nicer visuals in terms of shadows and lighting and whatnot in the game. And then, but you do lose some resolution, so you drop from I think in performance you drop from 4K to like 1800p or 1440p, somewhere in that range. I think it's still higher scale, maybe 1692, something like that. So not 4K, but also just slightly better than quad HD or 1440p. But when you add ray tracing, then it dumbs it down basically to 1440p, and basically it hangs out in between 1080p and 1440p. Now, between 1080p and 1440p, you really don't notice that much of a difference. You will notice some level of difference between 1440p and 4K, or 1080p and 4K, of course, in terms of textures being that much more sharp, more realism in the design of characters. So me playing on ray tracing or performance mode was actually fun. I did try to play on 30 frames per second, the quality mode, which kind of takes the best of everything, and that was still cool to play with. But once I got on PS5, man, I really didn't have a lot of issues. Like, just went like this. Phew. Now, when I did encounter issues with Guardians was when I went to New Games Plus mode, or New Game Plus mode. Then all of a sudden there was, like, I don't know about glitches, but bugs just started popping up out of nowhere in the game. That's when I actually noticed problems jumping in New Game Plus. So at least for me and my run through in the game, the first level of play, I virtually had no issues. The second run through, all of a sudden the issues like, aha, gotcha. So be mindful of that if you guys decide to pick it up and play. But even then, those issues weren't even really nothing. It was just like, oh, what is happening now? So it was kind of a weird freak out moment for Guardians. Now, the attention to detail with the Marvel characters themselves, I feel like Eidos Montreal, who's with Square Enix, did a great job establishing the story for the Guardians and for all the people that pop up in the game. So much Marvel lore, some callbacks that you will remember. I won't say callbacks, but references that were also referenced in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So if you've seen the movies, you're gonna be familiar with some characters. You're gonna be familiar with some of what's supposed to be like the next movie, Guardians 3. If this is dropping before Guardians 3 comes out. And I was actually very, very surprised to see this one specific hero. I was like, what? And the fact that he was so ingrained into the I don't want to call it the MacGuffin, if you will, but the throughput of the story was based around this character, but you don't really find out about that till later on in the game. And I was like, whoa, I was not seeing that coming. Like, the fact that they were able to go deep with this game, make it fun, make it something you could understand, latch onto, and actually feel for the characters. The other thing I liked about this was each character had a moment to shine in terms of their story, what brought them to Peter Quill or to the Guardians of the Galaxy team, their background information. Rocket had like a little girlfriend back when he's being experimented on. Drax has a family that we know of, Hovat, which I believe is his wife, and then his daughter's name is, I think, Camaria or something like that. But the fact that his wife was like second to him in terms of combat, like on his planet of Catathia, and just how much in pain he was and how much he wanted Thanos so bad. He wanted the Thanos so bad. And yet, you know, he doesn't necessarily display that on his outer shell. So being able to run through and understand his mindset, his pain, was phenomenal. Gamora, her pain, along with Thanos as well. Thanos has affected this team in at least two ways, or at least with two Guardians, right? It's just crazy. But to understand her story, characters we know about around her, like Nebula, Nebula and Gamora, their relationship, what Thanos was doing with them, and it was good. Groot, of course, being the last flora of his planet getting destroyed and being saved by the Collector, which I can't remember if that's either comic book accurate or at least synonymous with the MCU. If the Collectors would save Groot and, like, I guess Rocket busted him out or something, like, I don't know. But all of their stories were so unique and so painful, right? Like Peter, of course, we know him losing his mom, but he loses her differently in this story. And his dad isn't Ego or whatever of this one planet. At least we don't know quite yet. We just know he was like the ruler or king of Spartax. And he does have the ability to hold the Infinity Stones. So I don't know if he's a celestial part, half celestial or not. I guess I'll find out in Eternals whenever I finally watch that movie, if Peter's dad comes up anywhere there, or if there's a potential sequel for Guardians of the Galaxy game, and I guess even Guardians 3 will maybe give a little bit more background information into Peter's history and his dad's identity. But the fact that they were able to still touch on that in this game, and the story has 16 chapters, and they're fairly meaty chapters. Like, this is not a game you're gonna easily run through. Like, even when I did the second playthrough, it still took about 10 hours to run through, right? It's a meaty, but it's so good. Like, the story in this game is so good. I was really happy. I wasn't surprised per se, but I was really happy with what we got with Guardians of the Galaxy, because there was some concern due to Marvel's Avengers inconsistencies in terms of that overall game. Now, with Marvel's Avengers, again, great story, just in gameplay in terms of fighting mechanics, actually not bad, but it's the rest of the game that needs some help, such as bugs and whatnot, and content. And for a story linear game where you only play as Peter Quill, but you can command and control the other 4 Guardians, not only did this game feel more tight, it felt more substantiated and have more content than Marvel's Avengers. It was pretty interesting. So hopefully Crystal Dynamics gets their thing together for, 2022 for Marvel's Avengers. We already know She-Hulk has been leaked all over the place, and supposedly we got 2 new outposts that might be popping up. I know it's a side note, but it is Marvel related. But in terms of Guardians of the Galaxy, the story was beautiful. All the heroes or characters of the Guardians team, the people you interact with and meet in this game, is absolutely amazing. I'm trying to think of any issues I had. Well, before I get to that, to kind of go back to the attention to detail aspect of this game, there's a scene where Mantis and Drax are duking it out, and how real the choreography for this looked. The choreography was on point. The OST, right? The original soundtrack, the music that you get, both in terms of really the licensed audio, but then like the typical like Marvel-esque orchestra that we seem to always get with all the games, and it just fits so well. All that was beautifully interlaced and played throughout the game. But this scene with Mantis and Drax was out of this world. Even though I wouldn't say it was necessarily brief, but it looked so legit. I was sitting there like, I wish I could replay this scene. Like, that's how clean this scene looked between Drax and Mantis. And then there was another moment with Drax and Mantis when she's kind of like, you know how you could give people piggyback rides, and she taps him on the head like 2 or 3 times, but where she taps him, you can tell Drax wasn't kind of feeling it, and you see that eye on that side blink as he gets hit. So it's just like the way the interactions played, the attention to detail to this game was just, I don't want to say second to none, but it was definitely, that I think was probably the surprise, is how much they paid attention to the development of this game. And maybe with Marvel's Avengers not doing that well, it gave them a cause for pause to go back and make sure they tighten up as much as they could for this game. But it was outstanding. All right, so my dislikes aren't big. They're not heavy dislikes, but they are enough to maybe knock it a little bit. One of my dislikes for this game was the outfits. Yes, the outfits could have been way better. I won't say way better. There were a couple of outfits that I liked. There was like 1 or 2 that I liked for at least each hero. Peter had like 2 to 4. Rocket had like 2 to 3. Groot had like 2 or 3. And like 2 of them are essentially the same. He just gets 1 little piece added to him. Drax really only had 1, maybe 2. Gamora had a nice outfit. Nice outfit line for sure. I think hers was probably the best, but I feel like they could have did a little bit better in terms of the outfits and how, I guess you could say, how you get them, because of course it's through exploration that you get them, but it would have been nice where like because they have like a credit system that's really only for the story, because you can't use the credits anywhere else. Would have been nice to where you go visit the Nowhere, which is very crucial to the Guardians storyline period. So Nowhere is not a spoiler. But it would have been cool if there was like a vendor there where you can go buy outfits, and with a bunch of exploring that you do throughout the game, you could also just buy the outfit instead of trying to explore, because there's moments where you may have passed up just because you just didn't see this one little moment there's one little nook and cranny for you to reach it. And I did my best to explore in this game. I think there was 2 or 3 outfits that I didn't get overall, and they were both for Peter Quill. I was able to collect all the other outfits with no problems. It was just Peter Quill's outfits that kind of took me by storm, that I had to run back through and grab those. And the way they have the chapter set up is, once you've completed the chapter, it's complete. So you can run back through it and it won't affect that sacred timeline, if you will, of gameplay for you. Now, when you run back through New Game Plus, that's when you rerunning through the game. But you get to keep all your outfits and upgrades and stuff like that. The skill tree is fine. I mean, it's not really much of a skill tree. You get some perks, and then you can upgrade all of their abilities or unlock the abilities for all the Guardians to use in battle. Not hard. Their abilities are cool, and I think you can strategize a little bit with this game, both with Groot's ability to entangle and or vice grip enemies, so that way you can use your other heroes or other Guardians to attack them. Peter's attacks, he has like a wide radius base attack, then he has like a streamlined bullet storm attack that really works. He has a shield that respawns really quick. The cooldown's very short on that. Rocket has 2 really strong abilities, his grenade ability, and then he has like this ultra fire cannon Capcom versus Marvel type attack that does heck of damage. Drax and Gamora are your big damage inducers though, so I feel like you can strategize and beat some moments, especially if you have like a group or a crowd of people using Rocket's grenades. Blow! Takes them out, right? Groot also has a spiky, roots attack. So if you have a group again, ratata, you know what I'm saying? And then when it's just like 1 or 2 enemies right then and there, you can use Gamora, and she has like 2 ability that's either wide range, or she has one that she goes and like gets everybody almost that's in close proximity. So you can find a way to strategize the abilities. Now I wish the cooldown was a little bit short, just a teeny bit shorter, but because not all attacks that they have are necessarily for damage. Some are for stagger, to stop them from moving, or to immobilize them, and that can get in the way sometimes when you want to do damage. And so moments like that, you just need to know what Guardian you're about to click on, and make sure you pick the right attack and don't accidentally press the wrong button. But outside of that, I would say it's fairly easy. You could just, I won't say button mash, but you could just use the attacks at random if you wanted to, but I feel that strategizing them in a way really does make sense, especially with Groot, because he has the ability to hold down small enemies and big enemies, and strategize a great game plan when you run into those scenarios, because it really does come in handy in terms of your life and the attacks you have to use, where maybe you don't have to use everybody's attack. You can just use 1 or 2 of the Guardians' attacks, or just Peter's. Again, that's where there is some strategy in this game when it comes to commanding the other Guardians. Another dislike I have, now this is a spoiler alert. This character was featured in a movie this year. It flies. As I said, spoiler alert. So, I'll do this when the spoiler alerts are over if you don't want to hear this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Fin Fang Foom is in the game. All right. Now, at first you're thinking, oh, this is super cool. He clearly must play a part of the Guardians line, because Drax was the one that wanted to go to Fin Fang Foom for the entire game, because he figured we were going to get a lot of credits for being able to trade in, I guess, Fin Fang Foom's skull or a piece of his tooth or something, or a claw, I said claw thing, or skull or something. He wanted to go to Fin Fang Foom the whole game, but you do eventually actually go to him. You fight Fin Fang Foom, which makes absolutely no sense to me in the grandiose scheme of things, because we fight him to beat him, all for Groot to just revitalize him like 5 seconds after the battle. Lady Hellbender, who you've seen promoted in the marketing for the game, is a villain you have to deal with. She has some connection with Fin Fang Foom, or loves Fin Fang Foom. So right when you beat Fin Fang Foom, she comes and gets mad at y'all and is ready to take the Guardians out. And then Groot just revitalizes Fin Fang Foom as if nothing happened. I'm sitting here like, what was the entire point of this story moment? This literally felt like a filler chapter, because we didn't need to do that. I mean, yes, in a way it established a beat point for Lady Hellbender to some degree, but it really felt like a filler chapter, because it didn't do nothing in the grand scheme of things. We wasted all this time just for Peter to get one other ability and nothing else. Like, y'all could have put something else there. Having Fin Fang Foom in the game was dope, but I felt like it was kind of useless. In a way, I guess this is what you could be considered a cameo, if you will, that I can see. But that kind of hurt my feelings right there. I didn't like that. And then at the very end, towards the end of the story, there's a moment where I wish they knew that they had this built in to the story, because it could have reflected in like the open world moments on the Quinjet, or not the Quinjet, the Milano. Rocket needs Peter Quill's tape player. Now this is nitpicky, but still, he needs his tape player. You go over to Rocket to use the bench, and you talk to him about the tape player, and then very briefly, and then it's over. But he wanted the tape player because he didn't know if Peter Quill was going to turn the music off on the Milano in general, because Rocket needed to focus for this last mission. And there was a moment where, like, you talk to Rocket, and it's like the music's turned on the plane, on the Milano, and then he's not even necessarily wearing it, which is fine because of the story beat later. But it felt completely disconnected from the story beat moment and talking to him on the Milano. Typically, when you talk to everybody on Milano, there's some level of connection still between the story and you talking to them. They did a very good job of everybody's voice acting and playing along with each other, playing off each other, the jokes, the banter. All that was really good. Like, it was never really quiet in this game. It was just that one moment towards the end, I felt like they just kind of missed the small ball, if you will. And again, it's not a super big deal in this grand scheme of things, but I did notice that. So those are the 3 dislikes I have. Really, the biggest one was the Fin Fang Foom moment, the filler arc chapter, if you will. And then the outfits, which was minor. It's a minor nitpick. And then that little tape player moment at the end. But all in all, I will honestly say that I think I can give this game comfortably a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. Yes, it only loses 1 point because of some of those things I said. And then, of course, I wish we could get 4K 60, but it is the beginning of, we're still in the infancy of current gen, you know, PS5, Xbox Series. So one point for those little small missteps, of course, but again, 9 out of 10 is phenomenal for a game that kind of came out of nowhere, especially following up the Marvel's Avengers stuff. Eidos Montreal did their thing with Square Enix in developing this great piece of software in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I suggest that you guys play it on PS4 and or PS5. Doesn't matter. I wish I platinumed it on PS5 just so I could pop my PS5 trophy, you know, but as it stands now, I'm more than happy with what I got with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I hope that there will be a sequel. So let me know down in the comment section below if you guys have played this game yet, or you're thinking about playing this game yet. Have you seen the movies for Guardians of the Galaxy? Have you seen Shang-Chi to get familiar with Fin Fang Foom? Let me know down in the comment section below. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that way you never miss my videos. So we can sit back, chillax, and see what's cracking. It's your man Versatile signing out until the next video or live stream. Wait for